Hello everyone. In this video we will learn about what is a problem. What is a problem? And we will discuss about different steps to solve a problem. Different steps to solve the problem. And apart from this, we'll also see different examples of various different tools to solve the problem. So let's get started. So when we say a problem, so what is a problem? What is a problem? So a problem is something that we mostly do not want in our life. So you might think about that. Okay, but this is not the case here. A problem is something we can understand it as a situation. A situation. It can be in someone's life and in our life. So a situation, a problem is basically a situation or a scenario. A scenario. So a situation or a scenario that creates trouble. So basically a problem creates a trouble or puts us into the problem. So this is what a problem is: a situation or a scenario that creates trouble. Now as a human being we have IQ. We have IQ, which is your intelligent quotient. So using this IQ as a human being, we can find out or analyze the problem, and we can find out the solution to it. We can find the solution to it and we can solve the problem. As a human being, we have the tendency to analyze the problem and find a solution to it. So and also as a human being, what we mostly do, if the problem is bigger, we partition the problem into smaller problems. Now these smaller problems, we solve them step by step. We solve them, and finally we have a solution for this problem. So this is how as a human being we treat the problem in our life. We find the solution. If it is the problem is bigger, then we start by partitioning the problem into smaller problems and solve them step by step. So the same thing is applied when we talk about computers. So the same concept applies in the computer, but there is a little trick here. See what exactly happens in case of a computer. So computers. Now there is a problem here. Why? Because as a human being we have IQ, so we can think, analyze and solve and partition the problem, but computers don't have IQ. So basically that means they cannot think or analyze the problem. So why? How to do this? So as they do not have IQ, they require a programmer. They require a programmer to instruct to solve a problem. So this is why, because the computer cannot think. It's just a machine. It can take input, process it and give you the output. So it requires a programmer who can instruct the computer to solve a problem. So being a powerful device, computer is a powerful device and it can process powerful calculations as well, but that can only be done if it has a particular user or programmer working with it. So basically a computer cannot think. The thinking is done by a programmer exactly. So this is what happens. Now having said that, there is a point here that need to be understood, that it creates a responsibility. responsibility uh, of the programmer or user uh, to instruct the computer in a proper way. Now this is a responsibility for the programmer to instruct the computer in a proper way, because if the instruction is not given on a proper way, then if it is wrongly given instruction, then the computer will process it in a wrong manner. So that is what we do not want the computers to do. We want exact calculations and correct solution for a problem. Now, how to give a user or programmer, how they will understand that whether they are giving a proper way instructions to the proper way or not. Now, to do this, the programmer or the user should have clear understanding of the problem, So until unless you do not understand the problem as a programmer, you cannot solve it. So that is what the programmer or the user should have clear understanding of the problem before giving the instruction to the computer. So now we'll discuss about various different steps involved in solving a particular problem. So what are the different steps to solve a problem? So steps to solve the problem. Now what are the different steps to solve the problem? So there are total 4 steps. I'll discuss them one by one. So the first step is understanding the problem. Now why understanding the problem? We understand the problem to solve it totally. So until unless you have clear understanding of the problem, you cannot solve it completely or totally. So another thing is that here to be understood is understanding the problem means to know the objective. Objective means to understand that why we want to solve this problem, what will be the outcome after the solving of this problem. So knowing to know the objective of the problem. This is what. So it's like just to give you an example, it's like a doctor. If you go to the doctor will understand by asking you questions. Then he will try to understand the different symptoms you have, and based on the symptoms he will decide that what are the medicines required to cure the disease. So this is how a doctor works. Same way, if a programmer wants to solve a particular problem through the computer, he has to understand the problem first, and so that he can solve the problem totally, and also know the objective of the problem. Similarly, how a doctor works. Now we'll move to the second step, and the second step is analyzing the problem. Second step is to analyzing the problem. Now since we understood that what is exactly the problem and the objective we understood, now it's the time to find different ways to solve the problem. Now we understood the objective. Now it's time to find out different ways, because a problem can be solved in many different ways. So we'll find out all the possible ways to solve the problem. Now since we have very many different other ways to solve a problem, analysis means we have to find appropriate solution. since you have very different ways to solve a problem, you cannot go ahead with all the solutions. We need only one solution that can totally solve the problem. So we'll find out the appropriate solution out of all the different various solutions. Now once the analysis is done, analyzing the problem is done, we will have a broad understanding. We'll have a broad understanding of the problem plus the solution. So basically this is exactly problem plus solution, means you have the roadmap ready. You have the roadmap to tackle the problem. Now we'll move to the next step, then what we can do after analyzing the problem. So the next step, third step, is to develop the solution. Developing the solution. So developing the solution means we have to find a way to so that the solution will work in a computer. So find how the solution will work in computer. Another thing is here, to develop the solution, we have to find out the sequence. Find the sequence of steps. Now to solve the problem, we have to find out the various different sequence of steps, how we'll execute that particular solution so that the problem will be solved, and then we'll follow that step by step procedure. Same example, just to make it clear to you, like how a doctor gives you various different medicines, but they tell you that this particular medicine to be taken at a particular time, like in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the night. So likewise they have a step by step solution to tackle the disease. So similar way here, developing a solution for the problem and step by step proceeding with that. We'll see the last one, the fourth one, which is very important. The fourth one is coding and implementation. So it's coding and implementation. Now what is coding and implementation? Throughout the steps that we followed from 1 to 3rd of the steps, we understood the roadmap we have ready, and we have also found out the different steps and procedures to implement or solve the problem. Now what is coding and implementation? It's all the concepts that we find out from various different steps. It's all about conversion of the solution that we found out, conversion of the solution to computer programs. So we'll convert that solution into computer programs so that the computer can understand and solve it. Now how to convert that solution into computer program? We have to choose a programming language. We have to choose a programming language like C, C++. Using a particular programming language, we have to instruct the computer the way we want to solve the problem, so the computer will understand and solve the problem. Now there are various different examples of various different tools to implement all these 4 steps. Now these examples are one of them is called algorithm. So algorithm is something, before writing the code, the code is written on an algorithm, so step by step procedures, that how the functions will be implemented in terms of computer languages. So that is what done using the algorithm. Another one tool is called flowchart. So a flowchart is also a symbolic notation that is used to break down the problem into smaller problems and solve the problem.